Well, Autophiles, afternoon in TGG Publika. Thanks for TGG this time, still our sponsor, for our second episode of our video podcast.
Thanks for tuning in.
I'm Bo.
I'm Subhash.
Yeah. So, as you can see behind us, TGG. Today we are not in
Desa
Park City. Today we are in Publika. Publika is the newer branch of TGG.
Yeah.
It has a very similar menu. But slightly different, if I'm not mistaken. But I'll check it out afterwards. Yeah, I think I heard you ordered something just now.
Yeah, I ordered something, but it's only coming after that. I have to reward myself later with some food.
Sure, I'll join you for lunch afterwards.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you for tuning in. So our topic today is
Nissan.
oh, Nissan.
Their
Big
rise
story.
and fall.
Rise and fall. When did they rise?
They rose during your era. And
No, I
if
think before.
If I'm not mistaken, you are a bigger Nissan fan than me. Like I'm a Honda and Mazda fan.
Yes.
You are more of a Nissan.
Okay, because I grew up in the 90s, in the early 90s, right? So Nissan was the shit, man, at that time, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Honda was like the or the upcoming But the problem with Honda was that it has a little bit of a bad image at that time. It's that Abing. And of course, you can't talk about Nissan without talking about Carlos Ghosn.
Yeah.
Gone, man, he's gone.
The star of the Nissan show.
Of course, man.
Yeah.
So, I mean, where do we start with Nissan, man?
Well, I mean, to me, let me start from my perspective, and I guess some of our readers are around, our viewers are probably coming from the same place as me, as
Okay.
in, why is Nissan such a big deal?
It is. Nissan is a damn big deal, bro.
Exactly, they are a big deal.
Yeah.
But in Malaysia, I guess in the last 10, 15 years, the spotlight has sort of gone away from them.
I cannot entirely attribute that to Tanjong. Sometimes I have a feeling,
It's
maybe
Nissan
we'll come
itself.
up afterwards. It's Nissan itself. There's some practices in Tanjong that I really dislike,
Yeah.
but the more I look into Nissan's lineup overseas, I see similar practices. So it cannot be something Tanjong, from Tanjong itself.
Yeah.
It is something, systemic in the organization. So so where is the rise of Nissan?
So the rise, it's actually very weird. Nissan is not like Honda and Toyota. Honda and Toyota have very strong founder stories.
Okay.
You know who the founder of Toyota is.
Right,
It's
yeah.
Mr. Toyota.
Yeah.
You probably don't know his first name.
Right.
Doesn't matter. Honda, the founder, was basically making the cars with the
Right,
engineers
right.
up until the time he died.
90s.
Until the 90s.
Until NSX.
Yes.
Yeah.
You have this very strong link between the chief engineer, who's also the founder, that sort of thing. But with Nissan, it's more like they were what they call a zaibatsu, which is like a conglomerate,
Conglomerate.
a family conglomerate,
Slightly devoid of personality.
And
But that being said,
Yeah.
they are also the only company with the strongest personality in some of their cars.
Yeah.
In most of their cars has zero personality, right? But in one or two of their cars, they have always broken
more personality than any
other Japanese car ever.
and more continuity.
Correct. Correct.
Example: Z car versus Supra.
Yeah.
We all know the Z car is a real Nissan product.
It goes back a long time, man.
Yeah.
From the 240, 240, 280, 260, 280, then 300, 300Z, 300ZX,
350, 370.
350Z, and then 370Z. Now 400Z. Yeah.
I think the name is not announced, but we assume it's going to be 400.
Yeah. So it's the continuity. It's unlike any other Japanese. Some Toyota has that level of heritage, but actually, if you really sit down and look at the models, the chassis, the alphabetical signage of the chassis actually goes back a long time in a lot of Nissans. They trace back a long time into their heritage, especially motorsports. So let's talk about Nissan in the Nissan that made it. I think the early ones are the 240s. But that impact is not so strong here. It was mainly America. But over here, I think what people are looking at is a 120Y, the Y chassis, which eventually then it became the 130Y. 130Y was eventually become the Sunny.
Yes, Sunny.
Yeah.
The car that basically every Malaysian family has an encounter with.
I've driven one as well. My dad owned one Sunny.
It used to be the driver school car, right?
Oh, it
My
was
mom
the
said-
driver's school. It was the taxi.
Yeah.
It was the taxi because it was ubiquitous. It was cheap and reliable.
Yeah.
It was everywhere.
And when Proton came in, the price doubled overnight.
Yes, because Proton essentially overnight made every car more expensive.
Yeah.
But we are not here to criticize Proton today. We'll talk about Proton another
Episode
day.
4 coming for you.
But so in Malaysia, I think the beginning of Nissan was the 120Y and the 130Y,
Yeah.
right? So that was ubiquitous. It was really everywhere. I remember when I was young in the late 80s, it was the taxi of choice.
Yeah.
Even when Proton came into the picture, it was still a lot of taxis are still running around using Nissan Sentra, Sunny at that time. Yeah, and then
they started morphing it. It became the Sentra.
yeah, there is a bit of a story we need to talk about here. Now.
Because
This is
I will just make it clear that I'm as confused as most other people as to Nissan's nomenclature.
Yeah.
Nissan's Sunny
Yeah.
has
It's
gone through so
Sentra.
many names. It's
Yeah.
Sentra, and then after that Sylphy.
yeah.
In other markets,
Yeah.
it's called what? What?
It's not just Sentra, other model as well. You have Pathfinder and Navara. A lot of their model has this problem, and let me tell you why. I think you are right in a way. Nissan is a bit of a conglomerate. They don't attach that level of significance in terms of personality,
on
like
their
a
mass
person,
market cars.
a person who's identified with one line of product. You get what I mean? But their business model is more a production line oriented. So you have the Z chassis and you have the Y chassis. And the Y chassis can carry many names. It doesn't really matter. But for enthusiasts, we all call it the Y chassis, the S chassis, the A chassis, and of course the R chassis. You know, so these chassis spawn many different names. That's why the confusion with Skyline and GTR, even until today, right? Even until today, people still call it Skyline GTR, when this product doesn't exist anymore. When Skyline actually spawned off into something else as well, on top of just being a coupe and a sedan, it's now also a crossover. But at the same time,
Is it a crossover?
Yeah, there was a crossover. You didn't know that?
my God, I didn't know.
There's a crossover Skyline. All of it was based on the R chassis. All right, but with the R35, of course, there was a little bit of a watering down of that.
Yeah.
But overall, the chassis, when you look at Nissan, the most important thing you need to pay attention to is what chassis you're talking about. You know, like for example, one of my first car was actually a Silvia, an S15 Silvia. Okay, so it's an S chassis vehicle. But S chassis vehicle throughout the world has many names. Silvia is one of them. It's also called the SX. Yeah,
Yes,
in America, it's also
180
called
SX.
yes, 180 SX, 240 SX.
Yeah.
It even has some special edition which is called Sil 80, which is Silvia and 180 SX joined together.
You see why it's difficult for me to understand this brand?
But it doesn't matter, you know why? Because these are all cosmetics. What matters is the essence of the vehicle.
Which
That's
is the
the
chassis.
S chassis, yes. All right, and the S chassis has, of course, if you've been paying attention, is one of the most sought after drifter scene,
Cars, yeah.
chassis because of its
Share with
simple.
the Safiro.
Yes. In fact, very interesting that the fact that you mentioned, because I was driving my dad's A31 Safiro, and A31 Safiro is very different from A32. Okay, A chassis went through a heresy of renaming. Okay, Safiro from the A31 chassis is basically a lengthened version of the S chassis, which means that it shares the underpinning with an S. Basically, you're getting a Silvia, but elongated long wheelbase. So the Safiro, that first generation we get here, which is the A31 Safiro, is actually a long wheelbase version of a Silvia. And it even bulges in places that where exactly the Silvia bulges. For example, in the front passenger seat, the floor is not flat. Closer to the seat, it actually bulges. Nobody knows why. I think it's because to mount the rear wheel drive gearbox. It bulges exactly the same place in an S13, 14, even up until 50. It still bulges in exactly the same place. I have a feeling they didn't really do a lot of R&D to modify the chassis significantly. Yeah, but that is the gene of the S chassis.
But when it came to A32, it became front wheel drive.
It became front wheel drive. It's a completely different chassis. It's a Maxima chassis, but they still call it an A, which is a little bit of a heresy to me. Yeah, but what to do? It is what it is. It is what it is.
So in the 90s, in fact I was reading up, I heard in the mid 80s is when Nissan started to mess up. Because you have to remember, Nissan is much bigger than Honda.
Much bigger.
Much bigger than Mazda.
Almost the size of Toyota.
Yeah, it's basically Toyota and
Nissan. Yeah.
And Toyota and Nissan were basically given an ultimatum from the Japanese government. The Japanese government got an ultimatum from the US government saying you just have to stop exporting so many cars to us. We are going to put a limit and you get to decide.
Basically the trade war version 1.
Exactly.
Yeah. Basically America is telling Japan, you cannot overtake me because I'm the big brother.
Yeah.
No matter what you do, so you got to stop. and they gave them an ultimatum, which is basically what they're doing to China now. Yeah.
Except with China, they got no leverage.
Not only that, I think the Japanese rely on America to a certain extent.
What happened was Nissan made the shortlist. Nissan and Toyota basically made the shortlist of
Right.
people who can brands who could export more to the US.
Okay.
And their goal in 1985 was to beat Honda. To beat Toyota.
Okay.
To beat Toyota.
Okay.
They concentrated so much on beating Toyota, and they did it so badly that Honda overtook them in the US.
Oh yeah.
And by 1993, they started losing money.
1993.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
It was that early on.
Wow,
And
I
I was
didn't
looking for
realize
reasons why this happened, and nobody can point to one exact reason.
Okay.
But some of the reasons they named was one, a lot of the white collar workers were all from University of Tokyo, and University of Tokyo basically breeds politicians.
Oh.
It's like imagine a UK company,
Right.
a US company, car company that only takes from Harvard and Columbia and Brown and all that.
It's not competitive.
It's not
Basically, you have a lack of cultural diversity.
Yeah.
But that's, I mean, in macro sense, it's also true with what happens with Carlo Ghosn some 20 years later, which is roughly the same thing.
Yeah, you get this very disconnect between what people are looking for in the car market versus how they govern their
Versus the
companies.
traditional Japanese culture,
Yeah.
the organizational culture of these companies. Yeah, so then since 93, I didn't know
Since
that.
93, they started losing money, and
Okay.
then it basically they started borrowing money from the Japanese Development Bank, and because the whole bureaucracy thing is like one example they said was when they were asked to come before a Japanese government committee.
Right.
Honda sent 2 representatives, Toyota sent 1 or 2 representatives, Nissan sent 5. As in, they have so many people in charge of certain departments that they have to send this many people.
Right.
Because it's just red tape everywhere.
I think you told me about this before, this story before that. They are symptomatic of an organization that is a little bit in the
Clunky,
past.
yeah.
A little bit in the past. Yeah, even in the 90s, I didn't realize that. And then
And as appealing as some of the cars are, like the S chassis, the Sylphies,
the R,
the Silvia,
Sylphy has never been.
no. The Silvia is appealing as like cars like the Silvia, the Z cars and all that. Their mass market cars were always a bit bland. You see, you make fun of Honda for being very childish,
Abeng,
and all that, but the VTEC DNA and the NSX DNA always trickles down to Civic,
You're right.
Integra, Accord, Prelude. You get to taste it.
Yeah.
But whereas when you're in a Z car, it's nothing like.
You're right. This disconnect in Nissan it's very apparent. Even in the 80s, which is really odd. I mean, if you look from say 80s, the early 80s until even today, the greatest sports car made in Japan has always been a Nissan. Has always been a Nissan. Even you go back to the 70s. Yes, Toyota had the 2000 GT, but seriously, it's not really a production vehicle. All right,
It's a statement vehicle.
Correct. Z car held the status of Japanese sports car flagship all the way until the 80s. In the 80s, not to mention huge amount of Japanese sedan with huge engine. You have the Toyota with their 1Js. Yeah. But the 1J was a latecomer, to be honest. The powerful 1J came much later after the RBs, which is the Nissan equivalent of the inline 6 2.0, 2.5, 2.6 capacity powerhouses. And there are so many Japanese sedan that is powered by this really overpowered engine at that time. And we are talking about how a performance sedan is linked to BMW and Mercedes and no man, it's not. It's Nissans and Toyotas are the ones that are churning out all these performance sedans in the 80s. And then after the 80s, the Z car kind of went downhill a bit, but that's when the R, the 32, the 31, 31 not so much, the 32,
33.
then 33, then 34. Toyota came with the Supra, yes, but in terms of performance, it was nothing compared to the 32. 33 had a little bit of a dip, but it went back into its golden age in 34. So after 34, there was a few years of a dark age, but then straight after that, it was a GTR, which until today is still one of the fastest production vehicle sports car in Japan. I mean, compared to the latest Supra, yes, technologically more advanced, but it's a BMW. You get what I mean?
At least Nissan made it themselves.
At least Nissan made it themselves. You get what I mean? So from the 70s until today, we are talking about a grand total of 50 years. Nissan held the number one spot in performance vehicle in Japan throughout these 50 years. But the general public who's driving the Nissan Sunny and the Sentras never felt that connection with their bigger brothers.
What is the engine called? CVVT technology. It's not VTEC. It's not.
I don't know what's it called.
Nothing is trickled down at all.
I don't know what's it called. But it's really quite sad. But you see that connection in Honda NSX. You feel that VTEC kick in.
Yeah.
Not only in an S2000 or an NSX.
In a Civic.
Even in a Civic. Yeah. You don't even need to go into the Type Rs to feel some of that that feel, right? Of course.
My 4,000 ringgit Civic
Yeah.
had Formula 1 style suspension.
There you
Double
go.
wishbone all around.
But of course, you can say that Toyota purposely do not choose to do this setup. They're not stupid. And Honda is notorious for their, their suspension pushing and whatnot going bust. But that being said, you at least feel that that's the focus in which Honda has, which makes it more appealing than Nissan. Yeah, Toyota has its niche because it's reliable. Nissan never had that level of reliability, but it's okay. But when you're not number one, that's when the problem starts, isn't it? Yeah. At least Honda was popular because it was focused. It is zoom zoom, like Mazda is today. It is very zoom zoom.
So in '99 is when things really hit the fan. Hit the fan.
They almost went bankrupt, right?
Yeah, they were basically they had a press conference and they said we are bankrupt, we're insolvent, we're gonna go bust in a few months. See you guys, someone help. And then they were sinking, and then for the first time, a big Japanese company got sold off to a European company, and that was
the merger,
the
so-called merger.
It's a merger. It wasn't sold off, but they basically bought like 40-something% voting stake.
Renault owns 40%,
Yes.
but Nissan owns 10 plus.
Yeah, 18% of Renault. But effectively, they're saying, okay, Renault, you are my daddy now.
Yeah.
So it was very, when you are that big and you're that important, even the Japanese government must have felt it.
Yeah. It was a blow, lah.
Yeah. 90s, the Japanese bubble burst. All these things sort of contributed to it. They just, if you're like you said, like, if you're that big and you're not number one, you cannot sustain yourself. Because only Toyota can. And I see the way Toyota handle being number one by diversifying what they're going into, buying up Daihatsu, taking a bit of
taking different market segments,
and then even getting out of the car industry, building Toyota City, getting into all these other things which are not car related in case cars don't make it.
So, but Nissan on the other hand was selling off their aeronautical arm and whatnot at the same time, isn't it? It's all money. When you run out of money, everything doesn't work, isn't it?
So that's when Carlos Ghosn comes in, 2003.
Oh, is it?
Is when he steps into the picture.
Okay.
And initially, actually, he does a good job.
He did.
Yeah, Nissan starts to.
He exceeded the target, wasn't it?
He manages to make a profit within a few years.
The profit margin climbed, sales climbed, operating costs shrunk. So basically, he's doing everything right in the first 5-6 years of his operation. Managed to turn Nissan around to a certain extent, but that's also the time when Malaysians started getting a bit disconnected with Nissan. There was a bit of lacking of attention in this region.
But it always seemed like Tan Chong knew what they were doing.
Okay.
I mean, I've never, only in the last few years, it seems like they don't know what they're doing, but it's coming back now. There was a point in time, I think 2006 or 5,
okay,
where Nissan actually beat Toyota
in sales volume.
In
Which
Malaysia.
car?
I can't remember, but I remember seeing a sticker with the sign saying "Thank you Malaysia for making us number one."
Okay.
Basically, a big middle finger to Toyota.
Okay.
For
Okay.
finally being.
It's
able
like
to beat.
Audi telling BMW we are number one in South Africa, and BMW and BMW is like, congratulations, little boy, we are number one in the world.
Exactly. So when I saw that, and I saw a few other little bumps in sales volume. You get the feeling like, okay, maybe Nissan is not so bad now.
Okay.
But then suddenly all this drama with Carlos Ghosn happens, and I covered the news and I started to see how much money Nissan is losing. And then in 2016, Mitsubishi joins the picture.
Oh yes.
Because Mitsubishi gets caught up in a scandal. Around the time Dieselgate is unfolding.
Right.
Everybody says, okay, since Dieselgate, Volkswagen lied, everybody has to redo their test.
Right.
That one kid who messed things up for everyone.
Yeah.
So when they redo the test, everyone's more strict. suddenly they realized Mitsubishi has been faking their numbers.
Oh.
They've been using different tire pressure to get different results.
Okay. Not to the level of Volkswagen.
Not to the level of Volkswagen.
Volkswagen is outright cheating, man.
I think I have a feeling someone was a whistleblower and blew it out of proportion.
Okay.
Just so they can undervalue Mitsubishi and Renault can
Buy it
Renault
over.
and Nissan can sort of buy it over or absorb it into their alliance.
Yeah.
So Mitsubishi joined the now the most
The Trinity, the most unprofitable Trinity.
the most unprofitable, difficult to pronounce Trinity. Renault, Mitsubishi, Nissan alliance. Just call it something else.
Yeah.
So they joined in 2016, 2017. And, what happened in the last year, we'll get into the Carlos Ghosn story in a bit because it's quite entertaining.
Yeah.
But in the last couple of months, what has happened is they've rationalized their whole decision-making process. Each company is going to take one region.
Okay.
Renault is going to focus on Europe. Nissan is going to focus on the US and some markets like South America, Russia, Mexico. And Mitsubishi is going to take Southeast Asia. Yeah. I don't know what that means, but what I heard is it's going to be like I take the lead. So in this region,
you're going to get products from Mitsubishi leading the charge, while Nissan's going to rebadge them maybe as a Nissan product.
So we know that Renault, Mitsubishi and Nissan build pickups here.
Right.
Mitsubishi especially in Thailand.
Triton
is built in Thailand for a lot of countries.
Then we have Navara here. But to be honest, car to car, I have been more biased towards Nissan against
Navara was
Mitsubishi.
better,
A lot of Nissans, say what you want, even the very embarrassing Renault Fluence, which is basically a Nissan, carries over so much of Nissan gene in it that it essentially drives like a Nissan. And if you ask me what is Nissan's character, the essence of Nissan, aside from very thick seats, is the creaminess of its drive. Its engine and its drivetrain has always emphasized on smoothness and refinement. And its engine technology has always been, well, in a way, superior to even Toyota's. They spend a lot of time in and effort in their engine development. Their letdown tends to be their gearbox
because their CVTs tend to break.
Yes.
But that's rumors. We don't. Neither of us have CVT.
No, I have experience. I have friends who own Nissan. What's that big one? Tiana.
Elgrand.
Tiana has severe CVT problem from the Jacko CVT. But Nissan also has another problem, which is it's more adventurous when it comes to usage of material. Not as much as Honda, but more adventurous than Toyota, that's for sure. Look at an Almera versus a Vios. You see the design element, but design element is good if you can
execute it properly.
If you can execute it properly. Nissan tends to falter. You look at the difference between Elgrand and take the first generation Elgrand for example. First generation Elgrand versus first generation Alphard. The Alphard is an inferior product technically speaking. Suspension wise, setup, stability at high speed compared to the Elgrand. Elgrand is superior. But the Elgrand just falls apart after 6 or 7 years. Every plastic part, even the door handle, it's a little bit wonky and it looks like if you use too much strength it will crack kind of situation. You don't get that with Toyota. That's why you still see Alphards running on the street. You still see Alphards running on the street, but you don't see so much Elgrand anymore because they break apart. Very unfortunate.
And which is why Scotty Kilmer likes to tear them apart every single episode.
But to be fair, they are much better than a lot of American companies. To be fair, they are much better than.
He just makes a comparison versus other Japanese cars and versus who they were in the past.
Not only that, versus his favorite pet car company, Toyota, which
everybody should drive a 94 Celica.
Which this is where I need to tell you an observation that I've made. Toyota is reliable mostly. I'm not saying that every Toyota is reliable. Mostly. I've driven some Toyota that is horribly unreliable, but mostly they are. But Toyota falters whenever they start making small volume products.
Sportier cars.
Yes, MRS, MR2, the reliability is notorious. It's horrible, man. It's actually quite unreliable. This is where Nissan is the complete opposite. Nissan's sports car tends to be pretty darn bulletproof. Look at the Silvias, man. They are still running around. Why? Because they have no problem.
This is where the episode gets interesting. Second beer.
Second beer. This is where the episode starts picking up. So, Carlos Ghosn, what happened?
What happened? So Carlos Ghosn, he did some good things, like we mentioned
he
before.
did.
He turned the company around. He created an electric strategy.
Right.
Just around the time Elon Musk started pushing Tesla, he said Nissan must be the first.
Okay.
First mass market company to get on
The
this.
Leaf.
The Leaf, yeah. So they sell more electric cars than any other mass market manufacturer.
Right.
So that's to be commended.
Yeah.
That's good.
And he turned the company around. I mean, at least for the first 10 years.
For the first 10 years, they actually started. I don't know if they're making much money, but they were making
They
less.
were.
Less.
They were because their profit margin grew to 9%. I remember reading it somewhere, and apparently 9% is way above industry standard
For automotive.
That's quite scary. That means that if a car is sold for 100,000 ringgit, they are making 9,000 ringgit. It's actually quite scary.
Okay, so what happened was he was pretty much put on a pedestal. Or maybe
It is God. He's godlike.
He was godlike.
Yeah.
Maybe he put himself there. We don't know. When you make that much money and it's that
Personality,
important,
maybe.
he sort of grew a bit too big.
Yeah.
And he started abusing his position.
You say abuse lah.
Yeah.
Okay, of course this is
Well,
a
this is
trial.
what- yeah,
This is a trial ongoing. But one thing is for sure we cannot deny is that his personality was bigger than the Japanese can stomach.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Right.
Yeah, there's two sides of the story.
Yes.
We'll go through that. The facts are
The facts are
he did use company funds
He
to
did.
buy
Yeah.
property, to buy assets.
He did.
But I don't think it was.
And his income was way too high.
yeah, his income is
Way disproportionate.
Yeah.
But of course, that being said, from a Western point of view, it's about capacity, it's about competence. But you have to understand, in Asia, it's not just about that. It's about people around you.
Yeah.
It's about your peers as well. And if I'm not mistaken, he was earning 16 times higher than the
next person.
the CEO of Toyota,
Yeah.
which is like number one, right, in
Right.
Japan. And almost in the world, right? But there's a bit of a disconnect there.
Yeah.
But what you're seeing here is East meets West, and there's a conflict.
Yeah.
In the West, it's personality. I am individual. I made this who I am. I'm your God. You listen to me. But in Japan, it's a bit different.
I'm very like when it first came out, I was very skeptical about the way it was being reported.
Right.
But the more my first suspicion was that the Japanese are ratting him out.
They are. I'm sure they are.
Then I realized the guy who ratted him out is a Malaysian
Shit.
Indian
Oh.
lawyer who works in Nissan. He was the first person who heard about all this and said, we have to do something about
But I'm pretty sure it's orchestrated by the Japanese.
it. Yeah, of course. When everything came together, they said let's do it properly. And
But that being said, I think Japan knows. The people in Nissan knows. There is misappropriation of funds. He's earning a little bit too much. He's taking some money and he's doing creative accounts
Yeah.
and whatnot. I'm sure people in Nissan knows. But this is what big CEOs do. I think to a lot.
in Japan, they do it as well.
They do. I'm sure they do.
Look at Olympus.
Yeah.
They were underreporting accounts for a long time, and
Right.
until the point where they had to shut down this year.
Right. So therein lies the problem. I'm sure they do.
Yeah.
But you close your eyes to him because he's
He's
God.
making money. Yeah.
Yeah, he's God. You don't question God, right? But when there is a plan in place to topple the giant, the titan, then all these illegal things became. Well, you can say illegal or non-legal.
Non-legal.
Non-legal
Extra
things.
legal.
Extra legal things become
Yeah.
become bullets.
But I wonder what it was, because the moment he left, we all found out how badly Nissan was doing.
Right.
Even Carlos went on record and said Nissan is going to go bankrupt in the next few years.
Of course, he said it because he's not the head
Yeah.
anymore. But that being said, Nissan is in bad shape now.
Yeah, so they were
Horrible.
in such bad shape that basically, like I said, they're gonna divide their global market up between the three companies, and Mitsubishi, which is part of the alliance, is being pulled up in the UK. So imagine you're a Mitsubishi dealer in the UK. What the heck do you do?
You deal Nissan?
Suppose I suppose.
Oh, Renault. You end up dealing Renault.
Do we think they're gonna survive?
Well, what happened with Nissan recently? They closed one of the
They
plant,
closed
right?
a factory in Indonesia.
You're right.
And they're cutting a lot of jobs.
Right.
Thousands of jobs.
Right.
But this kind of thing happens a lot. Honda is also cutting down. They're closing 2 factories.
Right. I think one of the biggest problems Nissan is facing right now is their product lineup. Not having an attractive product lineup is one thing.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at the Malaysian environment, Hyundais and Kias to a certain extent do not have as attractive a product lineup as say Toyota or Honda. Yeah, subjective of course, but generally speaking, the sentiment of the market is such. But you cannot have aging product. You get what I mean? Nissan has been having aging product for a long time. And this is also symptomatic, not only today, but it also goes back into the heritage of the company. The reason why the Nissan Sunny had so many names in so many different markets is because
They kept patching it.
it's a bit like Proton in the early days. Because
The Saga becomes the Iswara.
the Saga is so well selling,
Yeah.
they want to continue selling the Saga even when the Iswara come out. They come out with the two different names. They continue selling Saga well into Wira. Instead of having the Wira replacing the Saga,
Yeah.
they don't want to take the difficult road. They don't want to suffer the pain because sales was good. So they continue selling it. So naturally you have two competing products in the same category, one older, one newer. Naturally you can't call them the same name. That's why you have Sentra and Sunny. Right? No, it's better to swallow the difficult pill now, the painful pill now, than to having to deal with having image problem down the road because people look at your product as old-fashioned. You know, like
Your
Sunny.
your whole brand suffers.
Sunny sold well into the 90s. Like, what the hell?
The Sentra sold up until what, 2013, 2014?
Completely nuts, man. Completely nuts. Then it's replaced by the Sylphy when they're still selling the Sentra. Then, you know, they overlap their product lineup. It's not Tanchong, okay? This one I really have to say is Nissan. Nissan does it here. Nissan does it in America. Nissan does it everywhere. It's not just that. Their sports car as well. GTR is what, 15 years old. Come on. 15.
The fact of the matter is, at that kind of age, right? Yes,
Yeah.
you can sell the car brand new for cheap, but
why?
but people can go and get a used version of that
Yeah.
for much cheaper.
Yeah, correct.
And you're losing your brand image.
Correct. It makes your car looks old. Even if you buy brand new, it looks like you're buying second hand.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell? You know what I mean? Who want to do that?
Yeah.
No, 370Z is still being sold in America. How
Crazy,
old
right?
is that car? 13 years old. A child has gone to school, not almost secondary school. And the car's still running. Brand new. You can buy from the showroom. You drive a 370Z off the showroom now, it looks like you're buying a second-hand car.
Yeah. That's not a good look.
Yeah.
So Nissan has some new products in coming out.
Yeah.
For Malaysia, we're excited for what, the Almera Turbo.
The new Almera, yeah, it looks good. I have to say, I haven't seen it in body, but
It looks
pictures,
good.
it looks good.
Pictures
Yeah.
looks fantastic. The figures are pretty good.
Okay.
Everyone except for Toyota is going the turbocharged route.
Yeah.
Honda is also bringing a City Turbo.
Okay.
Later this year.
Okay.
So I think in the B segment, they might be able to make some headroom.
Okay.
Because look at the competition.
Okay.
Who wants to buy a Persona? The thing is ugly as sin. The iris,
The
with
Proton.
with the back.
Proton Persona.
It drives well, but it doesn't look great. Yeah, I think if they bring it in, they have a chance. They have a chance to grab some market share away from Vios, away
Okay.
from City.
Okay.
X-Trail, there's a new one announced. Not in Malaysia yet, but it will come by next year, I think.
But I thought Mitsubishi is going to lead the charge. So are we going to get an X-Trail?
I think product is already out, they'll just bring it in.
Okay.
I think what they mean by lead the charge is your next Navara will be a Triton. That kind of thing.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh. But that being said, I have to say I prefer the Navara
Yeah.
to the Triton. And I've driven some Mitsubishi over the years. In the past 5 to 8 years, they are very mediocre.
Yeah.
Very,
It's
very
like when you compare what Nissan is doing with what Mitsubishi is doing,
Yeah.
they're both doing slightly aging products.
Yes.
But at least the Nissan is smooth and
At least they're competent in certain aspects.
certain
Yeah.
aspect.
Yeah.
Mitsubishi just feels very old in every aspect.
It feels very bare. You know, you can feel the metal vibration in your steering rack. You know? That's how little dampening they have. Yeah.
I think our next topic has to be Mitsubishi. What the heck happened there? Even Subaru is like, dude, I help you out. I know we used to be enemies, but
Subaru was the underdog. Mitsubishi is the fallen grace, man. It's just sad, man.
so yeah. Also, they got the Aria, which they
Oh yeah,
announced,
the Aria.
looks
Yeah.
really good. A lot of
What is
electrified
this? What is
features.
this supposed to compete against?
It's sort of like a upmarket X-Trail.
Okay.
It's them
Electric X-Trail.
they're trying to show that Nissan as a brand can start to go upmarket now. They gave it a new Nissan badge. They give it a lot of, I think, semi-autonomous features.
Right.
Their Pro Pilot features are a bit more than usual. So I think there's some hope that their product lineup is Z car.
Oh,
New
Z,
car coming.
400Z. But I have my reservation. The reality is Nissan has never been successful at trickling down their more prestigious product into the common product. You know, you don't feel like you're driving a GTR when you're in a Nissan Altima, the Almera. Nissan is quite sad. I am a Nissan boy, to be honest. I've owned so many Nissans, from an A31 Zafiro to a S15 Silvia to a 350Z. What are Nissan? I've even driven the Sunny, the old Sunny, pre-facelift and then facelift. Even the car came before the word facelift was even there. The 130Y, 130Y facelift. It's really quite sad because the Nissan that I know is completely different from the Nissan you know.
Yeah.
The Nissan that I know is quirky because they had shitty products on the road, but they had some of the most amazing sports car from the land of the rising sun. You get what I mean? You can't get better horsepower than getting a Nissan. Yes, some Toyota is comparable, some. But seriously, Toyota falters when it comes to small volume sports car. Nissan is the king when it comes to sports car. But to see it falter like that, it's just sad.
To me, I could never relate. I see Honda and Mazda is doing a better
Yeah, Mazda
strategy.
is doing a better job, man. You see the entire lineup being more sporty, and they're lacking a flagship on top of that. There is no flagship in Mazda. So where is their racing heritage? RX-7?
Yeah.
What are you talking
exactly.
about?
They prop you at MX-5, which puts out so little horsepower.
It's
and
not-
say,
it-
this is our sports car.
From a sports car point of view, it's a joke, right?
But you know what? It works because that zoom feel translates to every one of their products.
It's not to say Nissan can't translate the zoom feel into all, but I think they can't because the image is not
Yeah,
there.
and I think they realize certain markets don't need the zoom feel. You know, Almera buyer doesn't need to go fast all the time.
You don't, but Nissan Sentra can.
Sentra can.
Because you know, you had the Bluebird SSS in the 80s.
Yeah.
Yeah, that dominated some rally. So why can't you repeat these things? It's really sad.
Anyway, remains to be seen whether
Hopefully,
they can do it.
good luck to you, Nissan, without Carlos gone. Yeah.
With Carlos gone.
With Carlos gone as well. Good luck to you, Carlos. I hope it works well. Oh, speaking of which, the blast
Yeah, it's
2 days
blast.
ago. Was
2
it?
days, yeah.
2 days ago.
He survived.
His 15 million US dollar house in Beirut survived
Yeah.
the blast.
The guy can escape anything. Japanese authorities, explosions.
But I heard he was really in a bad shape in Japanese prison. They kept the lights on for like the whole day.
Torture.
Literally, it amounts to a kind of torture, isn't it? And they imprisoned him for how long?
A few weeks without
52
Without-
days. I
without
read
putting
52
charges.
days without charges in Japan. It's possible.
it's like holding a terrorist kind of thing.
Yeah. And their conviction rate apparently is quite high. Now, of course, therein lies the problem. You see a lot of media, there's Western media that is against Japan in this issue. But the reality is, Japan is not doing things the same way as the West in a lot of aspect when it comes to criminal law.
It's much harsher.
Is much harsher than the libertarian West, to put it this way. So yeah, I don't know, man. To be honest, I don't know.
That story, I think, if you're interested in what we said, you should go up and read it.
Also,
up.
they should make a movie about it.
Netflix
tell us,
special.
tell us who you think should play Carlos Ghosn.
Yeah. He's got a very iconic face.
Yes.
Hard to replicate.
You know that guy who plays Zeus, not Zeus, Odin in American Gods.
Oh,
Eh?
you know, yeah. He's got the eyebrows for it.
Yes, he's got the eyebrows, right? He's got a look as well. Yeah. Anyway, Autophiles signing out from this week's video
Episode 2.
podcast.
And thanks TGG again for sponsoring. They're
Thank
in Publika,
Publika,
and
yes.
DBC.
Yes.
Check them out.
Do come to this place, visit them. Prices are reasonable. Place is very upmarket. So
And beer is
value.
cold.
Beer is cold. Not so cold now, but you know, it's cold. Thank you.
Bye.